Stephanie, Lyon, and Annemarie, you are the first people to join. And thank you so much for that, because we're doing a live video today, not at our normal time. Home Together normally goes at 2 o'clock West Coast time, 5 o'clock East Coast time. But today our guest is Lester Holt, and he's got a broadcast to do. So we're nimble here, we're flexible, we shift for our guests depending upon when they can do it. That's the thing about a live Instagram show, is we can move depending on who the guest is. So today we're moving to talk about Lester Holt before he goes on the air, and to talk about the new kids show that NBC News is doing twice a week. They've now started a nightly news for kids, which is terrific. Many, many years ago, I anchored a kids show at NBC, and it was one of my favorite jobs, anchoring. Brian Gumbel did it before me, then I did it. So it's nothing like what Lester's doing, but I'm really glad that Lester's doing nightly news for kids, because kids have so many questions and they're probably not watching nightly news. So it's super smart that Lester Holt and all the folks at NBC News did that. And you can watch it on streaming platforms. He's going to explain all of that. Hi, Karen from Boston. How are we? I'm really conscious of Lester's time. So Lester, where is Lester? Lester has been in, oh, there is Lester. Lester Holt. But he has a live TV show to do, so he has to be super prompt. And waiting for Lester Holt at NBC. Lester Holt, one of the most trusted newsmen in the world. And every night he brings you NBC Nightly News. He's trustworthy, he's solid, he's so calming. I love watching Lester. And best thing about Lester is he's also a really good man. He is a really good human being. I think it's always important to say that before he's a newsman. He's a grandpa, he's a husband, he's a kind man, he's multi-talented, and he's the anchor of NBC Nightly News. So Lester, I know, has good internet, because at least I hope to God he's got good internet, because he's the anchorman of NBC News. I'm just a contributing person to NBC News, and I don't have, oh, there he went away. So I guess he doesn't have great internet. So we're going to have to wait till he asks to join again. But that's okay, because Patrick's not here either. And this new news show is not for kids Patrick's age, because they're not really kids anymore. They're young adults. It's not even for kids Christopher's age, and he's graduating from college. It's probably for kids who are like kids, little kids. And so to explain the news to little kids, that's kind of the idea. So I wanted to ask him about a lot of what's going on in the news also today. And there he is again. So it says, add Lester Holt, NBC News, the Lester Holt. Yesterday we talked, oh, there's Lester Holt.
I finally figured out the technology. I have fat thumbs.
Please tell me you're more technology savvy than I am, for goodness sakes.
Very good to see you.
Nice to see you. How are you doing? I want you to know, here in California, we're holding up. This is your home state. You're in the California Hall of Fame. But how are you doing back there in New York?
You know, I'm doing well. You know, I'm bicoastal. I actually have a small apartment I keep in the LA area, and I worked out there normally, but it's been a while, obviously. We're doing well. We had the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels fly over a little while ago over New York, and that was just great to see. You know, every night we lean outside and we cheer and applaud for the healthcare workers. So we're doing the best to keep our spirits up. You know, I guess we're on the backside of this curve here, but the numbers are still just astounding. It's still hard to wrap your mind around it all.
Lester, you just said the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels, and I saw some images of everybody rushing out to see them and hardly practicing social distancing. It seems like that's getting harder and harder to implement. Is that what you're feeling as well?
Yeah, we did a story on that the other night about this kind of fatigue of staying home and trying to do the right thing. especially today is a lovely day here. We haven't had a lot of great days. This was a
Right.
great day. Saturday was, and you're starting to see people creep out. I'm watching more cars on the street as well. And I think this is going to become a challenge as it gets warmer. I mean, people have done a great job, and we can pat ourselves in the back for bringing this curve down, for staying at home. But now the challenge is, you turn on the TV, you see various states and communities beginning to open, and I think that's going to create a huge impatience on the part of a lot of people.
So talk a little bit, Lester, about, because I know you're here to talk about NBC Nightly News for Kids, which is a whole new concept. How did that come about? Why did it come about? And who are you trying to reach? I know it's not really my kid, Patrick's age. He's going to come, but who are you trying to reach with that, and why?
Well, I was doing the news. First of all, one of our senior producers, Brad Jaffe, it was his brainchild. He brought it to all of us. But I had already been struggling a little bit doing the news every night. It was so grim. We're giving these incredible death tolls, and we're talking about a vaccine that's not here yet. And I kept thinking in the back of my mind, there are families watching right now, and there are children watching right now. And I wish I could sit them down and say, okay, this is happening, but you should know this and you should know that. And this was the perfect vehicle. So we do a program, and it's aimed at a wide range of kids. So we don't try to talk down. At the same time, we try to keep it more conversational and really, kind of get to this idea that kids have questions. We're all a little scared right now, a lot scared, I guess, on some level. But as I said in the first program, I believe that the more you know, the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are, the more empowered you are to deal with that fear and uncertainty. Know what this virus is, what it can do, and what it can't do.
So this is my kid, Patrick Schwarzenegger.
How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Great.
Sorry, I'm a few minutes late. I was told.
Yes, well, we met a mix up in the time, but it's all good. We're here.
Yeah, East Coast, West Coast, we're here.
We're here.
No, I just didn't want him to think that I would show up late under normal circumstances.
Yes.
No
Okay, so
worries.
we were talking about the new NBC News broadcast for
Right,
kids.
at night, yes.
Yeah, but it's not for your tiny kid.
Below me, right?
It's age below you, but probably, it's also kind of getting young kids, I suppose, to watch nightly news because they didn't grow up with it perhaps the same as we did.
Yeah, it's I've always thought that the nightly programs, our program in particular, is a place where you can come at the end of the day. You've heard all this noise, all this stuff out there, and we give you, 30-minute digest of the day and analysis and all that. But it's become even more important. People are home. People are watching more television in general, whether it's Netflix or us. But we have to honor that, and that they're craving answers right now. And so, our mission every day is facts, facts, facts. Tell people what we know, what we don't know, and hold our leaders accountable, because we need them to be on their A game.
So I'm curious to know, you say that people are kind of craving that information, but at the same time, I feel like kids are sometimes a little oblivious to some things and aren't craving the information, right? They're always looking for that fun cartoon or whatever show. Is this mostly parents that you guys are trying to attract to show their kids, or are you finding ways to grab the kids' attention through the programming?
That's a good question. We've gotten a lot of response from parents who say thank you for this. So I think they're hearing about it and they're exposing their children to it. I mean, that's anecdotal, and that's fine. I think parents right now, especially younger children, are looking for anything right now that can help get kids through this on a number of levels. And in this program, we're not just dealing with COVID-19 or coronavirus. We're also talking about the other things in their life right now, like homeschooling, and what's the best way to kind of work out that school life balance with your parents and your workspace. So we had a story on that. We had a story on what's a vaccine. They keep hearing about these vaccines that may be a year and a half away. How does that exactly work? So we did explain that. We've taken a lot of questions from kids that they put on video. Questions like, why can't I go see my grandma and grandpa? And that's a tough one,
Is this something, Lester, that's going to continue on, or is this just a temporary show?
We've made, frankly, we haven't thought that far ahead. We did there was just a group of us said, let's do this first program and, see what it looks like. And we did it, and the response was very strong. So we did it again, and we're right now trying to get at least 2 a week on the air. And what I find interesting, we're doing this at a time that we've never been more challenged as a group, because we normally work in a big newsroom and bureaus across the world. Now we're all in our homes, and trying to put a newscast on the air, which has it's new technical and communications challenges, but we're doing a great job. And then we added this on our plate, which was kind of cool because we did it. And I think we're all, we've adjusted to our normal now, which is working from home and still getting this broadcast on the air every day, and the ability to continue to push forward, which is what we did with this program.
So where do people watch it, Lester? How do people watch it? Where do they get it?
Well, it's on our new streaming service, Peacock. It's also on NBCnews.com and our YouTube page as well. So a lot of places to get it. And the fun thing, and Maria, you've worked in the structures and the confines of broadcasts and time and commercial breaks. And, we're, one program maybe 8 minutes, the next one might be 11 minutes. So we're not dealing with the time constraints that we normally, see in the broadcast world.
Have you guys thought about changing, or are you looking to evolve the programming as the kind of summer break comes along, and when kids are no longer having that Zoom school, and that parents are looking for, oh my God, I need to now fulfill my kid's day with more.
The discussions haven't gone that far, but you have a very good idea there, which we may explore. Thank you for that. One of the things we have done in our NBC world, or the television world, is we know that not everybody watches us now on TV. I'm the generation that, sat and watched the news every night, and that's where you got your news. We are constantly in this race to peek around the corner and find where viewers are going. We don't see as many necessarily on the broadcast side, but they move around to the digital side, and we're continuing to press, our footprint. And so you gave me a good idea, which I'll steal for myself.
Lester, do you, just on the regular nightly news that you're doing every night, do you feel a COVID fatigue, or do you still see a huge amount of interest on behalf of viewers in where this disease is going, whether they should stay at home? Do they want to watch President Trump talking about it every day? Do they want to watch Dr. Fauci? What's the appetite out there?
It's hard to know right now. I mean, the audience levels are still high in general. So I think the easy answer is, yeah, I think there's still an interest. But like so many things we've seen in our society, everything starts gravitating toward red and blue and the political divide. And that, it's unfortunate. We're trying to obviously get to the facts of this thing. As I said, and there's a promo that runs around, and I say, look, we got to get this right. Yeah. And, the leaders we have are the leaders we have in this, and we need to be cheering them on to get this right. But you are seeing that divide now, and it's becoming a bit more of a red, blue, Democrat, Republican kind of a story on some levels.
Is he frozen?
No, he's not frozen. Yeah. So the question is, Lester, as you said, we grew up with the nightly news. You gathered around, you watched it all the time. It was the first to tell you what was going on in the world. This generation doesn't watch. Sometimes he gets mixed up who I even work for and what it is that I'm doing.
I think I feel like a lot of Americans, which is like sometimes I want a break from the news, because it's like every day I'm going on and I'm seeing there's more deaths, there's more cases, there's more this, yeah. And so I tune in every once in a while, or I go on my Twitter and I check, and I'm very well versed in the Corona space. I mean, I'm very attentive to it, and I want to be informed, but at the same time, it's how can I go and watch the news without walking away feeling that kind of extra heavy feeling of
Listen, I hear you, and I'm going to admit something I probably should admit, but I hit that moment sometimes too. And on the weekends, I try and really measure my intake of information. Obviously, doing what I do, I have to know what's going on, and I get all the alerts. But I don't consume it on the same level I do during the weekday. And some of that's just kind of mental health right now, and trying to deal with this. What I will say to people, and really important reason to stay connected, is because there's a lot of rumors out there. There's a lot of stuff that people are just shooting, from the cuff. And I think one of our roles is to kind of tell people what's real and what's not real.
Right.
There's been a lot of bad information. You may remember in the early days, you'd get these texts from a friend, this urgent thing. I have a friend in the government whose cousin is a general, and they're going to lock down the entire country tonight. And then, suddenly, and I noticed it outside, suddenly look at the line at the grocery store. And, those things can be harmful. And, our role as traditional journalists is to fact check. So I think you can't totally tune out. You shouldn't totally tune out.
Is this a tough story to fact check? Is this a tough story? We had Sanjay Gupta on here about a week ago, and he said it was the fastest moving story that he'd ever covered, trying to stay on top of what's real, what's not, what's happening, the facts. You've been around a really long time. How does this compare to other stories?
There is no other story like it. I mean, I think like most journalists of my generation, 9/11 we thought was the biggest thing we would ever cover. And this is really two massive stories. You've got, this health threat, of course, we're dealing with, but also the economic threat. Where is this going to leave our country? I mean, so many people out of work right now. A lot of people don't have the advantage I have, which is to be able to work at home. And, that's going to take a hard time to pick up those pieces. So there's so many parts of this that are moving right now. It's hard to think of anything bigger. And then you hear, and you're right about, the facts do change. I mean, remember when they were telling us, don't wear a mask. No, you don't need to, don't wear a mask. And now we're all about masks. Right. And that was based, we're told on some new science about, people that may have it but not have symptoms and the ability to spread it. So things do change. And that's not a shot at the scientists. They're learning as they go along on this thing. But it's important for us to stay engaged on all that. But to your larger question of getting young people, I think this children's program we're doing is kind of moving in that direction, that idea. We've got to continue to chase the audiences where they are. And so find ways to, if you're not sitting home watching nightly news, besides the fact you hurt my feelings, we'll find other ways to try to get the information to you. That's part of our challenge.
That's right. And the Peacock streaming is NBC's new streaming platform, going head to head with Netflix. So watch out, Netflix, because NBC is coming right at you.
Well, we have a lot of time on our hands. We can watch it all, right?
That's right. That's it. So Lester, you do stories also every week that inspire the country. You do news that inspires. What is inspiring you now as a newsman? What brings you hope? What makes it kind of worthwhile getting up, in addition to covering COVID, in addition to getting the facts out there? But what makes you feel like hopeful?
Well, I see people who are getting credit now for what they do, who we didn't really think much about. We didn't really think much about the checkout clerk at the grocery or the person stocking the shelves. We didn't think much about the FedEx delivery guy. The people that are responding or doing still in the service industry, who, they go into a strange home. They don't know, my health, and they put on their masks and they do their jobs. And so I think that has been affirming. Also, how people are stepping up for those who are less fortunate right now. And again, anytime we put ourselves out there, you could argue that we're taking somewhat of a risk in terms of, catching this disease, but yet people are doing it. And I think that's really important, that it hasn't really changed our core as people who want to do the right thing and stand up for others. I mean, if nothing else, this disease is putting into focus, the disparities of income and the haves and have-nots. And I think if we can learn to recognize that and see it around us and see people who you might not have thought of would be struggling with food, and you're seeing that now, that maybe this will be a takeaway long after the initial threat.
Right.
And how about as a whole for the news industry? You mentioned in the beginning, I don't know if you guys already talked about this, but you said you're used to having these big studios, a big team, and you're going through the technological changes as you're working from home. Where do you see this going as far as your career and your work in the next months? Are you guys, it seems like everything is working out pretty well being at home, and obviously you hope to get back to the studio at some point, but do you see it continuing to shift?
I think, well, first of all, the technology that we're using for me to broadcast at home, I mean, we broadcast from far-flung corners of the world and inhospitable places. So it's not so much a leap of technology as it is that we're able to do it so quickly with so many people. But the idea of working at home, I think on a broader scale, you're going to see some industries perhaps adopting that as part of their model. It's a little more difficult in what we do. It does limit us somewhat, being in my home office as opposed to a big studio at 30 Rock. But I think some things will apply. I mean, I would guess I'll probably have this equipment here for quite a while because we don't know if there's going to be a second or a third phase in all of this. But it's shown that we can be very nimble now. I have at times wondered what this would have been like if it happened 15 years ago.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it might have been. I think you might have been looking at like a slide on the TV and my voice on a phone. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're just lucky we have the tools. I mean, that we can do this. I had a kind of a mini family reunion yesterday on Zoom. Having those things at our disposal has made this a bit more livable, I would say.
Finally, Lester, I want to ask you, the conventions were scheduled for just a few months from now. We know the Olympics are not happening, which we're going to be on NBC. But it would seem to me, I'd love to get your take on what do you think is going to happen for the conventions. That would seem to be a great subject matter to cover for kids, about the whole voting process, how it's all going to change. What's your insight? What are you expecting?
Well, I think you're right. That's one of the things I've been thinking about is how we're going to explain the political cycle, because we're in the election year. The conventions are going to be very interesting because, I mean, yes, they could do the business of the convention, I suppose, in a virtual way, but that's a part of the process that we cherish. I mean, watching the two parties have their moments and their speeches, and whether you love them or not, it's Americana. It seems so strange not to have that, but nobody wants to be the center of be the new epicenter in all of this. But I think there's going to be a lot to explain. I think you're going to see more and more coverage as we get closer to November about this issue of mail-in voting. We know that some states use it already, but how can it be adopted on a national level? And how can we make sure that people have the right to vote? So I think we're going to be covering that more, obviously, on our traditional broadcast. But I think the kids show as well, they're going to have to understand that, in the middle of this, we're deciding who will be our president for the next 4 years. And that's going to present a lot of other interesting conversations and moments that we'll be covering.
Well, I'm sure.
Was that diplomatic enough?
The news work will be very full for the next bit of time. So
yeah, I think it's a great time to launch a kids platform because, as you said, when this disease may be as the economy opens up, there's all of the election stuff. Mm-hmm. There's going to be all these questions. How do you vote? Who gets to vote? How do you campaign? How do you not campaign? What will an election cycle look like without the conventions? Maybe we won't have the conventions. How will this all kind of unfold? There's a lot.
Yeah, I say it's an amazing time to be a journalist. And even before coronavirus, our country's changed in a lot of ways over the last several years. And I've told young journalists even before this, I said, look, it's a great time to be a journalist. This is our calling. This is what we do. Right now, as we're in this phase, America is craving information, and we have the ability to deliver. And so none of us wish this, certainly, but this is what we do.
Well, thank you, Lester Holt, for joining us. Good luck with the kids show. You can watch it. You go up on Tuesdays and Thursdays, so that's why we were talking to you today. There's a new edition up today.
Yep, it's coming up later this afternoon, yeah.
Going up late this afternoon. What's the lead story on NBC Kids? What's the lead story?
The lead story, we give a factoid each day, and we start off by explaining what COVID-19 means, how that came to be.
Oh, that's a good question.
Awesome.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Lester Holt, thank you so much. Can't wait to see you
you
in the neighborhood again.
Great seeing you guys. Yeah, I miss LA, so we'll see you out there soon.
We'll see you. Thanks. Get to work. Get there. You got to go live. Okay.
You're right. It's time.
Bye.
Time to put on a tie.
Okay. That's good. Lester
That
Holt.
was great.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, I apologize for being a little late. It
That's
was a
okay.
spur of the moment
Yes.
for everyone that was able to tune in. We're really grateful and thankful that you guys were able to watch. And if you weren't, we will keep this up, of course. So
Yes, we're going to, what I thought we could do is go actually live at our regular time, tell
Okay.
people that we did this,
Got it.
direct to our story. And if you have kids or know of kids, I think the kind of NBC News for Kids is really good. And it gives you a chance to watch something with your kid or tell someone who has a kid. And then you can use that conversation over dinner to talk about what they talked about on the news. And they're going to have a lot. I liked your question about, are you going to have this continue?
Well, I'm curious to know what's going to really happen with everyone when summer comes. I mean, I guess some people are hoping the economy's back up and running, and other people are thinking I don't think that's possible. And then they're going to be like, wow, my kids don't have school during the days. Now I have that added, you know, kind of headache, I guess would be the word, of them being.
No, I don't know any parents who think having their children at home is a headache.
Especially with free time all day long. You know, so I think that it's going to be interesting to see how our parents going to kind of navigate through that, how are different, you know, from cartoons to news to how are they going to attract kids to be utilizing their times at home if it continues to improve. And so we'll see. It'll be interesting to see.
I love that we have an NBC News show for kids, though, that introduces kids to facts. Facts are really important. Facts are critical. And I think the younger we can introduce people to the idea of facts, what is news, what isn't news. There's so much debate about fake news, real news. And news is, I was always taught when you got into journalism, it's based on facts. Get your sources right. You know, cross-reference your sources. Don't go on the air unless you can prove your facts to be correct. So I think introducing kids to what is the news, facts matter, who gives you the news, where do you get the news, as he was talking about how many rumors were out there at the beginning of this disease.
I mean, it's hard to know because, you know, this you know, virus is, we're learning about it each and every day, and so are the scientists, so are the reporters, and then in turn, so are the Americans and audience members. So, I mean, it's something that I think that's why Sandra was saying that it's so hard to follow because every day something's new. Can you get the virus again? Do the antibodies help? Is there something that Gilead Sciences is in the phase 3 of? Oh, China says it's not.
Yes,
who do we trust? So I think that there's so much information out there, and it'll only continue to develop and develop as time goes on. So, you know, that's what we're trying to do is hopefully find other people that are in this news space and that can bring some facts and really speak what's true and what's happening. And
I also think that the idea of like, there's a lot of questions now. Are we still supposed to stay at home? Or remember, Abby was saying last night, I'm feeling like maybe we're not, the stay-at-home orders aren't still in effect, but are they? Yes, they are.
Yeah, because there's a lot more people. If you go out, you know, on the street, there's way more cars going on right now. There's more, I mean, LA doubled this week in cases from before. So they're, you know, people are definitely moving around more so. And, you know, we'll see what happens. I mean, I think people are getting antsy, which I understand, and wanting to get out of their house and wanting to
get back to work.
Get back to work, which I totally understand as well. Right. But we'll see.
Yeah, see, here's way more cars for sure.
Yeah. I went on a walk the other day, and I was like, there was traffic on the street, and I was like, wow. It's just weird to see that.
Right. So it's a balance. All of these leaders are trying to maintain a balance that manages our health, that manages stay at home, that allows the economy in stages to reopen, understanding that people need to get back to work, people want to get back to work, people need to feed their families, and to recognize that it's going to be a slow process, slower than any of us want. And so everybody, I think, is trying to balance this, regardless of what party our governors are in. Everybody's trying to balance health, economy, work, healthcare workers, all of it. So anyway, I'm going to try to check out NBC Nightly News for Kids because I'm a kind of kid at heart, and I think sometimes it's really good to go where the facts are simple and where they're clear, and I like that. So,
all right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching.
Allie Wentworth interview did not stay up for 24 hours. Okay, so
was that the one where
that was yesterday, and Instagram has changed their policy. So now instead
now you put it up on your Instagram TV.
You have to go to Instagram Stories. I don't know why they did that.
No, I think it's Instagram TV now.
Yeah, Instagram TV. That's what I meant.
I think they just changed it this week so that because I think too many people were putting it up for 24 hours that it was making the system bug out. So I think that you can now watch it on Instagram TV. Well, let me actually just check on my phone.
You can watch it on Instagram, IGTV, and also then you can go to the YouTube channel and watch it there. But we're also going to try to cut it and put it up as well.
Is this
room
it, right?
at the beach.
Right,
that's it. So where is that?
So if you guys go, I'm going to show you on my phone.
Oh my God! Look at that.
If you go to Maria Shriver's page, it's a little blurry, but you go to this little middle thing. It's the Instagram TV.
Oh.
And then so the normal feed is here. That's normal feed. And then if you click the middle, it's Instagram TV. And then right there is her conversation from yesterday. So
But let's go to the picture that I put up of Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio coming to pick me up. I mean, that's what you should focus on. Look who was at my door coming to pick me up.
in your dreams. All right. Someone's getting a little crazy. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Bye. No, later this
Later
afternoon,
this
we'll tell
afternoon.
you about Lester Holt's interview.
All right.
Okay.
See you
Home
later.
together. Chris.
Phil.
And now.